folks. Let the music build to a crescendo. Welcome, folks. We've come to the grandest location in Hong Kong I could find. Waited for some orchestral music so that hopefully you'll ignore the fact that I'm 4 months late, finally getting my hands on with the Panasonic S5 II, which so many people are raving about because finally it has autofocus that actually works. It's been a bit of a disappointment for Panasonic that the one thing they've become synonymous with is bad autofocus when they're doing so much right. So much has been said about this new camera in terms of how it's doing for video and the great value that it offers. Today we're going to be taking a photographer's point of view on it. You know the chicken dance?
Chicken?
Come on, be pretty and be here. This is really interesting. I love getting Atomos footage to share with you guys, but unfortunately, and I had read this online, that if you are doing open gate and then using an external display, that you lose subject detect autofocus. Now we set this up so that the Atomos is seeing the focus, everything on the screen basically. So it's showing you the focus overlay. When I go into menu, you get that actually come up, all of that. But the interesting thing is I'm losing it on my camera. So it's become really juddery. It's no longer smooth, the EVF playback. Look to me, please. And I'm no longer seeing through the EVF any of the focus information. It's going to the external recorder only, which makes me think maybe it's a processor limitation, that it's not able to actually show it here and there, and that as soon as I'm using this, everything becomes more jittery. So I can tell you, with this unplugged focusing, the experience of it grabbing focus is a lot more stable and smooth than it appears when I plug this in. So I don't really know how to show you the actual user experience. Okay, so there we do have eye in frame, but it's not actually picking up. There we get it. Now, I have to say I don't love the overlay. That's just personal opinion. I would rather a box on the eye. But it's certainly, changing at the time it needs to change. It's just a little slow to pick up the eye and actually move to it in this mode. There, zone seems to get the eye more quickly. And full area, also more quickly. However, this One Plus is the one that my videographer finds the most reliable for video. You getting dizzy yet?
I'm a ballerina.
Oh, I've always thought of you as a ballerina. Point your toes. Wow, that music is making these tests feel extremely epic. Now, I've heard great things about the in-body image stabilization of this camera for video. It doesn't always translate between the two. Sometimes cameras do great at one and not the other because the kind of movements you're dealing with are different. And to be honest, tiny movements in video often go unnoticed, but tiny movements can completely blur an image. So I'll take a few different shots here. This is using the Sigma 28-70 and see what kind of hand-holding speeds I can get. I have to say the hand-holding capability, whilst pretty good, is not nearly as good on stills as it is in video. I was reliably getting shots at a 50th and a 25th of a second, shooting at 70mm, but I hardly got any below that. A 10th and a 6th of a second, occasionally one was almost sharp, but at a quarter or a half a second, nowhere near. So it's performing fairly well, but nothing like, say, the Hasselblad X2D that you can handhold at a full second. Now everybody has their personal preference if you want a fully articulated or just a tilting screen, but there are lots of opportunities for stills and video where it's really handy to be able to view it from a low or high vantage point. So look, as a stills photographer who's often reviewing cameras that have epic video specifications, I often get comments from photographers saying, I'm only interested in photos, I don't care about the video specs. To be honest, I think this camera has been kind of rightly looked at as a video camera, and we're all pretty clear on what it's capable to do. So actually the stills is kind of like, oh, it also takes photos. Now, whilst we're focusing on the stills, my videographer actually sold his Sony kit, which was only 3 months old, to buy one of these cameras for himself. So we're also filming today's episode all on an S5 II. One thing I have to say I'm surprised by is the ergonomics. I don't know why. Looking at photos of this and even looking at it on my desk, it looks like it's a small camera, but it's actually bigger and heavier than a Nikon Z7 II for reference. But I have to say, it's fantastically ergonomic. It seems, I don't know, I'm so used to Nikon cameras, so I try to be impartial in these things, but you just can't help but get more comfortable with things that you have the most experience with. But I think the grip on this and the overall layout is more comfortable than a Nikon Z6, Z7 II. The cutout is fine for big hands. I can actually fit all 3 fingers in there, despite it being, you know, still a reasonably small camera. And it feels really, really nicely built. All of the buttons and controls are nice. It's great in the hand. I'm impressed. One, two. I'm here. I was there the whole time. What? Now this sounds like a diss, but I don't mean it as one. I've gotten so used to blackout-free sensors that shooting fast frames per second there, I was seeing more black than I was her dancing. So it was like, you know, those old flicking picture books or something like that. So I'd see her like this, and then in the next frame she's like this, and then she's facing away from me. So knowing where the movement's going to keep framing is an issue. Having said that, at $2,000, I think it's probably up there with just about any camera for sports that's full frame and has similar kind of specs. But for about 2.5 to 3, go up to like an A7 IV or a Canon R6 Mark II, I think they're going to be much better options for fast moving photography subjects. Another spin, up, we hit our buffer. Up, can't shoot anymore. You notice it's also stopped focusing. Interesting. Spin, spin, spin. Come closer, closer. It's the moving towards camera I need to test. Yeah. And a spin. Yeah, there we go. Let's just talk quickly about those shots where Katie was dancing towards the camera. The question on everyone's lips, although it's been covered, is the autofocus. And yes, it's so much better than the previous generations. Well done. I'm glad you finally got here. I'm not going to hate on it, but it's still not going to blow your mind. It's like comparing something that didn't work to something that works okay now. It's not class leading. It's not like Canon or Sony autofocus levels or flagship Nikon levels, but for $2,000, it's doing pretty well. The speed, it's nothing really to write home about, 7 frames per second or 9 if you lock down the autofocus and everything. Faster if you go to electronic shutter, but that you are going to get rolling shutter there. One thing I noted, and I'm kind of on an anti-SD card campaign lately, but this is able to do such high, like fairly heavy video formats anyway to SD card. But I have to say, clearing shots, even using 300 megabyte per second cards, it just took forever. Like minutes after we'd done that, I still had card one flashing that it was still writing to that card. It really took surprisingly long to get all of that cleared. But still, when we look at it in terms of its price proposition and what your options are on the market, I think as a still shooter, it's a viable contender, but it's the video stuff that's going to push most people across the line. So look, I'm trying to remind myself this is a $2,000 camera. Not to trivialize that, $2,000 is still a lot of money. But when you look at what this is bringing to the market for that price, it's actually pretty fantastic. But still, my job is to be a reviewer. And if you just say all of this is great and don't mention the other stuff, people may assume it's great or not worth mentioning. So let's mention it. I do find it's not super responsive. Like when you've just changed lenses and you turn the camera on, there's often several seconds, I find, until the screen stops being black and you can actually shoot things. Likewise, sometimes it just takes a while for it to find the subject in the scene. One thing, and I'm relaying information to you, this isn't my hands-on experience, but my videographer has been using one for a while for his video, and he found, unlike Nikon, Canon, or Sony, where pretty much you get it out of the box, put it into face tracking, and it's just going to work. This one really needed some customization in terms of the kind of mode you're using and the different sensitivity and speed variables to get it up to like 95% as reliable as one of the Canon, Nikon, or Sony's might be out of the box. And I'm kind of finding that too here. If I don't have it in the right mode, it does really struggle to find her, and there are fairly significant differences depending on which mode you're in, then if you're in human or face and eye, whether it pulls her out quickly and how much time it spends on the eye as opposed to finding her as a torso or a head. So definitely, whether it's stills or video, you're going to want to spend some time to customize it and be a little bit patient, because it's not the normal turn it on and it's ready to shoot. You're going to have a few seconds delay. The more I shoot with this, I think part of the reason that I'm finding it so ergonomic and comfortable to shoot is the 1.8 range of primes. We're using the 18, 50, and 85, and then also using my assistant's Sigma 28 to 70 zoom lens. And they're just so nicely balanced compared to the 1.4s that they have out, like the 51.4. My goodness, it's so huge. So coupling the great ergonomics of this camera and then the nice light lenses, this is a really comfortable setup for all-day shooting. I really think it's more comfortable and ergonomic than the Nikon small cameras. So look, the conclusion I had planned was to talk about who is this for, but I actually think it's pretty obvious who this is for. At under $2,000, I don't think there's anything full frame that with serious video specs that comes close to this. Even the more expensive, like Sony's Cine style baby cameras, don't offer the same kind of functionality as this. So if you're looking at video already, you would know this is a great option. But in terms of stills, if all you're going to be doing is stills, whilst I think the images coming off this are lovely, if you can extend your budget, say $500, I think there's some faster, more responsive, better autofocus options out there, also with a few more megapixels if any of those things matter to you. But if you are looking to do hybrid work, to be doing both, just like in the video only arena, I don't think there's anything that's as well balanced that produces such great results for under $2,000. So yeah, I think it's fair to say in the sub $2,000 hybrid camera, without too much hyperbole, this is the best one that you can possibly consider. And you're in the L mount, so you do have the bigger variety of glass out there. That said, I don't know that there's enough here to move you if you were already a Nikon, Canon or Sony shooter and you've got lenses and accessories to move over to this. I don't know if it's that far ahead for a hybrid shooter, but if you're doing video primarily, then yeah, there probably is even enough to add a kit of this alongside whatever else you have. Let me know your thoughts on this one. Let me know your thoughts on the video. Throughout this, we've been putting in what the different file types we've been filming this on are as well, and we'll see you soon. Now, it wouldn't be tradition if we didn't finish with a song. So today we have Blackpink something something.
Shut down.
Booker,
Shut down.
Booker, Ali G style, right?
Let's go,
for it.
let's go. Let me plug it in. No, forget it. Keep watching me shut it down. Now, you don't wanna be on my bedside, that's right, I'm starting through. Bunch of wannabes who wanna be me, me three if I was you. Been around the world, posting your goals, we as a sweet fence, need a lesson, see a necklace, see the churches, we don't buy the rib, cause, That's it, that's it. And it.